Well, good morning, guys. This isn't technically live, though. This is pre recorded, so just bear with me on that. But because of everybody's schedule, we're getting so busy and people are getting back to work, all that fun stuff, and people have problems with the plumbing in their house, and plumbers are coming over and all that other stuff. We have to record this. And today we have Dan Dougherty on. I've been wanting to meet him well, I've been a fan for a long time, but I've been wanting to meet him, and I'm glad that he took some time out of so we can actually discuss who is Dan, where he grew up, what's his first job, all that fun stuff, and what's his philosophy on all different kinds of things creatively. So, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. But first, we are going to find out what's in the coffee cup. We've got Waking Dragon today, and of course, that's my proprietary blend that they make for me. And this is Indian River Roasting Company. Here at Ted Davies Artistry, we take coffee seriously, and so does our sponsor, Indian River Roasting Company. It's fair trade, organic, and they're artisans just like me. The only difference is I use watercolor and ink and they use coffee beans, and I enjoy it all through my day. So do yourself a favor, go to the description when you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Find Indian River Roasting Company's website, use the promo code CaffeinateTed2021, and save 10% on your purchase. To check everything that Indian River Roasting Company is doing, you'll find the website in the description under IndianRiverRoastingCompany.com. Use that promo code. It'll save you 10%. CaffeinateTed2021. I'm sure we'll be changing that up in 2022, but use CaffeinateTed2021, and it'll save you 10% on your purchase. We also have, of course, because I'm a comic creator, I had to have a sponsor, and the only sponsor that I could really think of in Bay City, Michigan was John Cashman. So we're going to talk about his comic book shop and what he does.
And every day I wake up feeling the same way now. Need to find something to believe. Every night the dreams we make, they're haunting my head now.
Yeah, check out everything that John's doing in Cashman Comics in Bay City. They are awesome. Cashman'sComics.com as well. And they'll send you anything that they've got nationwide. So check out everything he's doing. He's a big indie publishing promoter. So, he's got my book. Check out what he's doing and say hello to Petey, the guard dog in the comic book store. Tell him that Ted Talk sent you. Tell John that because Petey really doesn't care, I'm sure. But we also have two more things to go over. Comics Unlimited. We just picked them up as a sponsor. Glenn B. Fleming was kind enough to give little props for this, and you can find Comics Unlimited, which is a great publication about comic books, old and new. And in fact, this one I'm actually in. This talks about my Retrieve book and the adaptation that's happening in California. Very, very fun article on that. And we're also going to be in next month's article as well, or book as well, showcasing one of my covers. So really, really proud to have Glenn on board with that. You can check that out on Amazon, Glenn B. Fleming, on Comics Unlimited. And then last but not least, we have O Toys, which everybody knows that Damien's doing all my work on Retrieve, a few of the Archimedes figure, as well as the campaign that we're on with Grim 101 and the figure that he did for me, the resin figure that you guys can check out on Kickstarter right now. And let's look at his quick promo, and then we will get to the interview. And of course, we are affiliated with the Rising Tide Broadcast proudly. Check out 7 Days a Week. We're a group of creatives that help creatives build their business, just like creatives like Dan. So, with no further ado, let's bring in the floppy cop, Beardo, and touching evil star, Dan Doherty. Thank you for being here, man. I know how busy you are and everything, kids and all that, and you know, I get it, totally understand it, especially with the we've had plumbing issues too, and things happen, and so you're
My
waiting on a you're waiting on a plumber while we're discussing
yeah.
your life as a comic, well, as a creator. I don't consider you just I don't like pigeonholing people. So, all right, so Dan, I ask everybody this: when did you land on this planet? When did they drop you off?
Well, it would be about 41 years ago. And who knows if I landed in the right spot, but I ended up in the south side of Chicago.
Good deal. That's our A. Southside's all right, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a lot of props. I've got family in Aurora, and
Oh, cool.
we've got and that's not Southside, but it's
It's in the
definitely
area. Yeah.
Chicago. Yeah. I had my office out in we had a dual office, and one of them was in Chicago, so I spent a lot of time there, going back and forth to Detroit to Chicago. I loved it. It's such a great city.
Yeah.
It's
No,
such a great city. And Frank Lloyd Wright's my background in architecture. Frank Lloyd Wright was everything, and he's Oak Park is it. So,
yeah.
I would have easily bought a home in there if I could have afforded it back then. So, but thank you again for coming on. You just got done with the Kickstarter that was just killer. You ended up finishing for Touching Evil 2, right? It's the second one. That's why I invested in.
3.
Three. Is it three? No. Is it?
Yeah. Last time I
Wow.
checked, yeah.
No, you know what? I tell you what, I know what I did, because I got the one of the things I wanted to do is I'm a big fan of the comic books. I'm a big fan of the floppies,
Sure.
and that's why I ended up getting that, and that's probably why I was thinking that. But in any case, well, that's good. I mean, 29,000 excuse me, 22,900. I did it again. 22,900 on that. Wow, that's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it was really a great closer for
Yeah,
the trilogy. Like I've
yeah.
been doing that book for probably like 8 years now. So
Right. Well, and it
um,
shows. You got a fan base. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, though. This hasn't just been 8 years.
yeah,
You've been creating for over 20, right? 20 years ish.
basically, I mean, I'm 41, and I professionally, my first book was when I was about 23, so almost
Yeah.
20
So,
years. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. So that's awesome. That's commendable. But that's what shows. I mean, that's how you're not flash in the pan, and you're not overnight success. That people think. I want to tell you one thing though, as an artist and everything else, as a creator, Floppy Cop was hilarious.
Thanks.
Great. I
I'm
mean,
glad you said that.
Brian, and we talk about a few different things, but Brian K. Morris, if you guys don't know who I'm talking about,
Yeah,
Brian was talking about Floppy Cop, and I had to get it. It was free, just hysterical. So, and when once we meet up, actually physically see each other at a Comic-Con, I'm gonna have you sign my copies if you don't mind.
of
Um,
course. Yeah.
um, let's talk about. We're gonna go through a little bit about your how you started out. Okay, so you're in Chicago.
Mhm.
When was this? This is 80s? It must have been the 80s. Because I was born in 71. I'm 10 years older than you. I'm 50. So
Okay.
yeah, so you're 81 when you were born? That's right,
80.
80.
80.
80, okay. So
Yeah.
what was it like? What did you we were always in Chicago. What was it
Um,
like?
yeah, the 80s in Chicago felt a lot like Halloween, like the Michael Myers 80s. I kind of just tend to. I'm gonna put this way so I get better lighting here.
No
Um,
problem. No
there I
problem.
am.
Yep. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Um, yeah, and my memories of the 80s were mostly of like fall, and like we always
Yeah.
had these, like we have like 3 months of summer, so we have like 3 months of good weather, and then
Yeah,
it's like
right.
I always remember we had like really brutal winters,
Hmm.
and then fall and spring, and
Yeah.
so yeah, like I mean I think it was a pretty cool time because I'm in that weird phase where, or that era where
Hmm.
I exist before and after computers were a part of
Right.
people's everyday lives.
Right. Right.
So I frequently wonder what the category of who I am keeps changing. Like, am I a Gen Xer or sometimes I've been lumped into the millennial thing, which I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think I am. But
No. I'm the only Gen Xer in my family. Everybody else are baby boomers, my brothers and my
Yeah,
sisters. So it's a
yeah,
weird dynamic. So I get that. I understand that. And I've been pushed into this baby boomer, and I'm like, no, I'm the beginning of the Gen Xer crowd, you know.
yeah.
So I get it. And I understand. Um, yeah, was it like it was always urban though? You always stayed in the city proper, or was it
The only time I lived in the city was in my 20s. I was
okay?
in the suburbs otherwise. I specifically was started off in Mount Greenwood, which is
Oh yeah, sure.
like the south edge of the city. I think at the
That's
time
cool.
they still might have called it Chicago, but I don't remember.
Hmm.
Um, and then we moved further south to Tinley Park.
Hmm.
And I've been in Tinley most of my life because I
That's
grew up
cool.
from like 7 to I was in there through college and
Yeah.
then moved out, but came back for a while too. Now I live in Mokina, so I'm even
Hmm.
further south.
That's
I just
cool.
keep, yeah,
As long
yeah.
as you're finding your ground, that you've been so creative though over the course of the with music and everything. So, I mean, what was your first gig growing up? What was your first job? I mean, did you have a newspaper route or what was it? Ice
I
cream
was
parlor? What?
a busboy. I was a busboy.
Busboy. Yeah, there you go. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I was a busboy at a restaurant that's still around.
Hmm.
It's been around since I think like 1922, called Jack
Hmm.
Gibbons Steakhouse,
Yeah.
and
No, it's got to be
yeah,
a steakhouse in Chicago, right? Yeah, it's got to
yeah,
be.
right. It was a gross job. I was and I only had like two pairs of clothes for it. And I remember
Yeah.
they were always like I couldn't wash the grease out of them. So
Right, I
like it
know,
was
and it always had that
so
film on you, right? I
yes.
was a
Yeah.
dishwasher for a long when I was a teenager, and it was like, ugh, I just hated it.
Yeah.
Now I don't mind it. I don't mind washing dishes, but because it's for us. But man, back
Yeah.
then though, and you'd burn your hands and all that, and it was
Oh
bad.
yeah. Or get cuts. Like constant like,
Oh yeah, right,
broken glass, like just
sure,
random stuff would get you. Yeah, we used to they just we would work like a super long day and I'd get out of there and I'd be just covered in filth and
yeah, right,
sometimes
right,
injuries.
right. And then every weekend you're always booked, right? You worked in
Yeah,
the evenings, I'm sure. Yeah,
yeah.
I get it. Um, so fast forward, how does this differ? How does being a busboy differ from being a musician or being a campaign runner for
Uh,
with Kickstarter?
uh,
How does it different?
well, I used to be a little bit more bilingual when I was a busboy. uh,
Fair enough.
I actually
Fair enough.
was pretty decent with Spanish at the time
Mm,
because the whole back area they all spoke Spanish in the
yeah,
back. Now I'm not so good. Um, I mean, I don't think I've ever not hustled in my life. I think that's one
yeah.
attribute that I would say about myself. Like when I got that job,
Hmm.
it was the first job I could get because I was trying to get a job before 16. And it's hard to do. Like you had to
Sure
get
it
a work
is.
permit,
Yeah.
and a
Hmm.
lot of places just wouldn't hire you because they didn't want anyone that was too
Yeah.
young.
I understand.
So when they took me on, that was great. But then eventually I added like wedding videographer. I was
Hmm.
a assistant, and then
And that's a
work.
hard gig. That's a really hard gig. My wife
Yeah.
was a wedding photographer for 10 years, and it was, yeah,
Oh, yeah. I have so many.
grueling.
That one I
Yeah.
have so many stories about. Like that one was
Yeah.
like, I mean, every weekend almost there was something
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Absolutely. It was every weekend. Yeah. Every
Um,
weekend.
but I mean, I don't know. I think I've definitely had odd schedules my whole life, and I think that's never changed. When I was doing that stuff, it was always weekends and
Hmm.
holidays. You still had to work, and especially when you were low man on the totem pole. And like now, I pretty much work every day. Like I
Yeah.
have to, I mean, I'm full time doing this, which I'm very grateful for. But with great freelancing comes great responsibility. So
That's great. I love it. We need
yeah,
to do the shirts. We need to make the shirts.
yeah. I'm gonna
Um,
trademark and copyright that right now.
yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate too. I'm full time in it too, and it's not it's a real luxury. It's a very much a luxury, and I don't take it
Yeah,
for granted one bit.
no.
Um, what uh, what's your favorite guitar? What brand?
Yeah, actually, well, so
I'm just asking. I know people don't might not know that about you. You got the guitars obviously in the background, but they might not know that you do. You got your front man. So
yeah, no, for a long time, Fenders were my thing,
yeah,
and they still are. I mean,
yeah.
I bet you got a
Pillys
Strat
or
over.
yeah. Telly's or
Stratocaster
Strat?
there, and then there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Telecaster there.
Yeah.
But that's actually a St. Vincent Music Man
Oh,
guitar.
really? Cool. What kind of
I'm a
pickups
real
are
big
on that? They got that humbucks. What's on that? What's
yeah,
on the pickup?
yeah. It's here, I'll grab it. It's
Sorry,
pretty
man.
cool.
I gotta ask. So
No, I'm gonna bring it over here.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it's really great. What's cool about it too,
Let me bring that
sound
one
wise
up.
is awesome, but it's
I'm
light.
gonna bring you up. Hold on one second. I want to show
Yeah,
everybody what's going on with this. Okay.
yeah, see that?
Yeah, it's sweet, dude.
Yeah, I love the design
Yeah, I do
and
too. It's great.
the color,
Power
and then
ledge.
also
Yeah.
the fact that it's light.
Yeah.
Because I play long gigs and it hurts. Well,
Sure it does.
I'm not as young as as I was. I was playing at a Les Paul a long time ago that was
Heavy.
beautiful and it
Yeah.
sounded great, but it was so heavy. And
Yeah,
my
I
shoulder.
remember. I know a lot of people sit down when they're playing their Les Pauls. I've seen a lot of guys
Yeah,
when they're gigging.
yeah.
How old's that one? Did you have that custom made, or was it just something you picked up off the rack?
No, I picked it up. It was so the artist St. Vincent, the musician.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
her design, and it was probably 2019 because it's before the pandemic. I had it. It was one of the last major guitar purchase or major music purchases I made that year, and then
Yeah.
I only got to play it a couple times live because we didn't have shows last year. But
Sure. Sure.
but I loved it, and then I used it in recording. It was like it just has a great sound and a great playability.
Yeah,
just
it's
really
good.
really
The
easy.
action's really good.
Yeah,
How's the frets are good, and she's
yeah,
out real close, real tight.
yeah.
Everything's
Oh no, it's great. Yeah,
that's
it's got
awesome.
great action on it. Yeah,
That's great, man. Well, good. I'm glad you enjoy it. See, I enjoy. I'm a Gretsch guy. I love, I'm a big
nice.
rockabilly fan. So,
Oh, very cool. Yeah,
hollow core and all that stuff. But it's a very if you play music and you create other things, don't you think that it's the same? It really is kind of the same thing when it's all said and done. You're still losing yourself in that
yes,
inspiration. I don't see the difference whether I'm painting, whether I'm writing, or whether I'm playing music. It's almost like it's like channeling some. It's really, I don't know. It's almost like I'm supposed to do it.
I
Do you
agree.
feel that way? Do you feel it? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think sometimes you kind of need one to inform
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if I'm stuck creatively in one particular thing,
Mhm.
I'll go and do something else. Like rather than try to fight it, I will just kind of bend with it and go, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go play my guitar for a little bit, or I'll go, if that doesn't work, I go for a jog or something. Like I do
Right.
some, but I feel like it all is just sort of like trying to not fight the potential writer blocks or whatever. Instead, just kind of staying loose with it. It always helps me. Like I've always, when I was teaching, I would say that to everyone. I'm like, don't just draw, do something else. Like have something else you're doing where you can activate your creativity.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it worked for everybody. Like it was like whether you're even good at it, doesn't matter. It's like just go do something else where it engages your brain some other way, and then when you come back to the thing that you're struggling with, you usually find that the answer is right there in front of you.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and I've been saying that for years. I don't think that I have writer's block because I've got several different things I'm writing,
Yeah.
completely different stories, and it's actually helps me a lot. We live on a Great Lake, and it's beautiful here in Tawas. It's on the east side of Michigan,
Hmm.
and the beach is great. I can actually get out of the house, even in the wintertime. I can get out and get on the beach for a couple minutes, just get in front of the water and just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a very zen thing, but you need to get away from it, from the boards, so to speak. Because I'm still a traditional artist. I'm still on, I do a lot of digital work too, but yeah, I have to shut down. I've got to walk away from it. So I
Yeah.
get that. I totally get that. Favorite artist, favorite musical artist.
Oof, man.
How about
Oh,
guitarist? How about
yeah.
guitarist? Let's do guitarist. That's easy. That way you can limit it a little bit better.
That's still tough. There's a lot of, who I really love as a
Mm.
guitarist. I'm just looking at my record collection over here. Well, Prince obviously is
That's
is
a
a
given.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
Prince is always going to be in the top 5 of any of these categories.
Absolutely.
But who I've always really liked is John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers.
Mm.
I think he's always been a very
That's a good one. That's
underrated
very
guitar
good.
player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not many people even know his name. I mean, that's great, dude. I mean,
Yeah, no,
seriously.
he's got. I think he's what kind of classed up the joint, like.
Mm.
And I love the whole band, but like I think that there's something about what he brings to it that
Sets everything else off. Yeah.
well, and you could tell because when he is not in the band, the albums are different. Like
Yeah, they are.
he's
They
left
are.
like 2 or 3 times now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would
That's
say I
a
don't know
good
if he's
one.
my favorite, but he's definitely one of my top 5. But yeah, I'm looking at like I got like Jack White,
Yep. Yeah, Jack's great. I like Jack a lot.
Elvis Costello's great.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I think he's, and it's kind of, it's old. I was watching a video with Elvis on Elvis Costello on Saturday Night Live. It was the last time he was ever on. I don't know
okay.
if you ever saw that one.
Mhm.
But he played radio or whatever, and it
Yes.
was, and they Lorne Michael won't have him on again because he blatantly didn't play what he was supposed to play,
Right.
and it
Because
went,
he's like stopped the music and then he
yeah,
did.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. He's
Yeah.
so badass. He's so
Yeah.
cool. But it's weird. Some of his music is just odd, and but it's alluring. And I've always liked Elvis Costello, always.
Yeah.
So
He's got a podcast or something or other right now that I really want to listen to. He was just talking to Conan O'Brien last week, and he
that's
mentioned it.
cool. I'll check that out.
And it's something about like how to play guitar and why. I think it's what it's called.
Very cool.
So I'm very interested in that, like what he has to say about
Yeah.
the process. Yeah.
One of the technically I really like, I don't know if you know Daryl Hyam. He's in England, but he is a rockabilly artist. He and his
Okay.
wife, or his ex-wife, I should say now, Imelda May, put out a really just blowout music the last 10 years,
Okay.
and just amazing. You should check him out, Daryl Hyam. Very,
Hyam.
very good.
How
Yeah,
do you spell Hyam?
he's excellent. He plays a lot of or he made a lot of money playing a lot of Eddie Cochran stuff
Okay.
back in the day, and there it's different. UK, it's a little different, the market. But rockabilly's real big in Chicago.
Yes.
There's a ton of business in Chicago with rockabilly stuff. So being in from Detroit, I'm a big Motown fan. I grew up. I know I wasn't too far from any of the Hitsville. I worked one of my offices was close to Hitsville, USA, which is great. So I'd go
Okay.
down there on my lunch hour, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" Because everybody was from the suburbs. They're like, "Whatever, young kids." And I'm like, "No, you guys don't realize what happened here. What energy happened here. I mean, my girl, all these different. I mean, it's incredible." And yeah, and that's what I think makes a musician, when you can really break it down and see. And I think that it makes me a better writer too, because I lyrically it's one thing, but when I'm writing and I'm bringing something, and you understand this, I'm sure, you can bring a different experience or a different process to it because you've got the experiences that you've learned, I think, from music, listening to
Yeah.
music.
I think the storytelling part of it's a huge,
Yeah.
a really good crossover aspect of music and art, or visual art.
Mhm.
I think for me at least, like I think they inform each other a lot, and a lot of times even like something that might not have worked as a song ends up being in my comic and vice versa.
Right. So why comics? Why did you get into that? How did you fall into that genre?
I think back about it. I mean, I guess that goes back to talking about the '80s because I,
Mhm.
grew up drawing. My mom was an artist too. Is an artist. She's not, she's still with us.
Good.
She's an artist, but she kind of eased off doing it when she basically I think when she had my brother, her second kid. Just because it's hard to balance all that
Sure.
stuff. And
It's
it
family, yeah.
wasn't a job necessarily for her at that time. It was more
Mhm.
like a avocation kind of thing.
Mhm.
But we still drew a lot, and that's actually a lot. I always say this, like one of my earliest memories is drawing with my mom at the coffee table.
Yep.
And my dad doesn't draw, but he would take me up to 7-Eleven every weekend if I was good that week, and we would go get one comic off the rack, the spinner rack.
Awesome. Awesome.
And so a lot of my memories of reading, even let alone enjoyment, was based in those comics. Like like it was off the rack. It was like G.I. Joe, Spider-Man, Captain America, Batman, Heathcliff.
Yeah.
Like a couple random ones. I mean, I basically would pick that rack, dry because
Clean. Yeah. Right.
they only had like, I don't know, like 8-10 books a month.
Mhm.
And frequently I would, even
Clean them
using my
out.
allowance money to get the ones I didn't get every week.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess like I always associated pictures and words together. I thought about this a lot actually lately because I'm like,
Mhm.
why am I doing like,
Yeah.
like what, you get to a certain point in your life and you're like, why am I like this?
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah, and so no, I've always, anytime I drew something, I always had some sort of like text associated with it. Like even when I had assignments where I was supposed to just do like an abstract thing or in class or something that was just straight up representational and no story, I'd always insert or inject some sort of extra layer of story to it. And I just stopped fighting that feeling and accepted it, as like, I think this is just sort of how I process the world, like I
Yeah.
always have like,
You're very visual. I mean, yeah, obviously.
yes.
Did you learn how to I was gonna ask you this too. Being visual, did you learn how to play, music? Did you take lessons or is it just by ear? Can
I
you
took I took lessons for about almost 2 years, I think it
so
was.
you can read music then?
No,
Or
I'm
no?
not great with it. No,
See, me neither. I can't either.
yeah, I can
So, yeah,
slowly I could, but
yeah,
not sight reading, no.
right.
And I
Chords
only
I'm
got
good with.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only got
Did you
there was a time almost like with my Spanish when I was working at the
mm,
at the restaurant. Uh,
baptism by fire. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like when you're in it, it's a lot easier to just start going, okay, well,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
start
you're there.
together. But the Beatles couldn't read music either, and they did
Right, exactly, and what would have been the change if they did?
right.
Would have ruined it would have stunted their growth. I mean, there's a lot of things there that you wonder, but,
Yeah.
what about then, you were classically trained as an artist then. I was my dad was an artist, and he
Oh,
was
cool.
very, pretty prolific, and my mother also drew, but not to the level he did, so I understand that. I understand the crayons and the table and I understand all that.
Sure.
Um do you think that, I mean, were you were trained then, in school, in college, or what, to be an artist, or not artist, but, graphic artist or anything like that, or what was your background?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I feel like it's not as proper as it might seem on paper.
Mhm.
I I went to school. I went to college for art and got my degree in fine arts with a focus in I think they called it studio art.
Yeah.
But I went to UIC and I felt like they didn't have a lot of actual practical education there. Like I tried to take a lot of different stuff. At first because you had to take it, the gen eds,
Sure,
like,
electives and everything, yeah.
right, all the electives, all that. But
Yeah.
then I was taking like video and performance art and a bunch of other random. I was kind of doing the sampler platter of this stuff because I wasn't sure that it was a career either. Like to
Sure.
be honest, did not want to go to college when I first went. I was like, I just wanted to start, drawing.
Sure.
But then I also didn't know if it was a real job. Like I didn't have anyone in my family who was like a model for it. Like, okay, this is how you do it.
Right. Well, and the times are different too. I mean, the times that my
Yeah,
dad was a designer at Ford, there's no way I could get in. Yeah, there's even the 20 years later, 30 years later,
sure,
there's no way
sure.
unless I had this back. Yeah, I get it. I totally understand that.
Yeah, and it was a different time as far as like if I was born, I guess earlier, I don't know if I would have been able to do some of the stuff I've done because um, it was hard to do create like self-publishing back in the
Oh,
early
yeah.
2000s. Like they didn't have
Oh, yeah, right,
the
right.
first thing I remember seeing was Lulu, which
Mhm,
was you could print on demand. Black and white was still expensive, but at least you could do it.
mhm.
And basically, my upbringing was if you didn't have a publisher, you couldn't get something published. And
Right,
and
right.
and
Mine
you know,
too. Yeah,
and if you did something in color, good luck. That was the other part of it.
yeah.
Like I had drawn this really ambitious, probably very misguided now, like 120 something page graphic novel when I was in college as like part of my thesis.
Mhm.
And I went to a publisher, a local publisher, to print it, who I had a connection with at that point. I worked the comic shops that they also own. I worked in there, so I could at least get a foot in the door.
Good.
And the guy liked the comic, but he's like, "We'll never be able to publish this because it's in color." I drew it in color, like so. It was like the printing cost alone would be insane, and
Yeah,
plus you'd have to photograph the pages. It wasn't the scanner.
Oh, right. There wasn't the outlet for it. Yeah. Sure.
So he goes, come back to me with something black and white. And I was like, all right. So I did that. And then that was my first book. But back to the education part of it, I actually think I got a lot of my best education in drawing when I was in high school. Like I took literally every class that you could take in high school in art, except for I think ceramics, I missed was the only one.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I get that too. That's a whole nother
I just
level.
couldn't fit it in. I would have done it.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
literally I ran out of open spaces in my schedule.
My mother asked me, she said, because my dad was always like, "You'll never make it as an artist. You'll start, that kind." This is back in the early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah.
And he says, "I'm just telling you." He said, "You can work as a designer at going to school to be a designer for cars, like myself, or you can get into architecture." And my mom kind of threw it to me. She says, "Would you rather have people, live with your art on the wall or live in your art?" And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to architecture school. So I did, and I did all that fun stuff for the 30 years, and it was brilliant. It was great. But it's funny how sometimes people help, and they don't mean to distract you from what what you should maybe be doing. I look at the successes I've had the last just 3 years, and man, I should have done this. I should have embraced this 30 years ago, what we could have done, what I could have, and maybe it wasn't the right time. Like you were saying, maybe it wasn't, because now it's a different ball game. We're able to raise funds. We're able to do things that we couldn't do even 15 years ago, so I don't know. I mean, it's always hindsight's always 2020, right? But did you ever feel like you were like not, you were, they would pat you on the back and say good job and everything else, but they were kind of like, maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you should get into something else.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, my parents are, well-intended, but I don't think they wanted this life for me.
Yeah.
It's well, so my other thing that I was good at was math. So I was really good at math. And I don't know how that relates to art, but I am actually, maybe I do. Like, I think, because I sometimes do things a little bit more technical.
Yeah. Well, that's to your benefit, though. I mean, you analyze like I do, probably very much. Yes. And it makes you a better creator, I think. It drives our spouses crazy.
I was going to say, it's not great for relationships. No. You're constantly just.
Christine's about ready to drown me in the lake half the day, I get it totally.
Yeah. No, but I think, my dad, I remember, because my dad's also very good at math. Like, astonishingly good, like almost like,
perfect mind stuff.
Beautiful mind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, beautiful mind. Yeah.
So, he was like, why don't you do something like relating to that, like, like accounting or something like that. And I mean, I'm glad I made the choices I made. And I know that they weren't always well received.
Yeah.
But now it's a lot easier to say, oh yeah, Dan, we think what he's doing is the right thing.
They have to see the success that you have.
Yeah, now it's, but 20 years ago, it was like, how are you going to support yourself on this? And to be honest, I didn't know the answer either. Like, I wasn't sure. So like, I worked, day jobs, and then did this on the side. And then I gradually made this the day job and got rid of the what would it be? It was Starbucks, basically. It was the biggest one. I worked at Starbucks, but the retail job, I got rid of that.
Yeah. Not an easy thing.
No.
Not an easy thing.
No.
I know that we're running low on time here, so I'll get to the nitty gritty. So why Kickstarter? Why crowdfunding? Why, and what's the next move after this? Why crowdfunding first off? Tell people why they should invest in crowdfunding.
Oh, I think it's going back to what I said about, if I had been born a little bit earlier or whatever, I think I would have missed certain milestones in my career. And I guess it's interesting too, because you said you're 10 years apart, so you're also doing it. I guess it's ultimately just good that this exists. Whether or not it came into our life at the perfect time or not is another thing. But it's because Kickstarter or any platform like it that is doing that sort of thing, it's first of all basically a glorified pre-order for something you want.
Correct. And that's the way
it's not a handout. You're not begging for money. It's not that. Because if you don't get it, you don't get it. Like, right? I mean, if you don't make
it,
then that's sort of on you. like it or not, like
Right.
it's
Face
I,
fact. Yeah. It's
yeah.
right there.
I've seen people who I thought were guaranteed. Like there was one Kickstarter, I won't say who it was, but it was a friend of mine, and he was asking for a reasonable amount of money. Like I thought it was like, okay, this is appropriate for what
Mhm.
the book is. And it was a cool book. It had a lot of talent around it. Like it had a lot of Chicago area creators who contributed
Awesome.
pinups and like, extra doodads and whatnot.
Mhm.
And it completely tanked. And I talked to him afterwards. I'm like, what happened here? Like, because it was just sort of like surprising to all of us that we just
Right.
he couldn't even come close. And it just wasn't the right time or whatever. But he didn't get discouraged. He just did it again. But for me, I've never had that experience. I've had some Kickstarters where I'm like, I thought this would do better than it did. But you got to remember the times you're living in. But
Yeah.
back to why Kickstarter. It's a great platform because it's already an established name. We already know what it is. In fact, even when you go to other platforms that are trying to do it, the verb kickstarting is still used. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
you get this thing going.
Yeah.
And since people know that, they usually trust it unless they've been burned by a bad creator.
Who
Um,
doesn't fulfill. Yeah. Yep.
right, which I mean that does happen, but
Sure.
I don't think that by and large that happens very often.
No.
Since there's that, there's people who come there that don't even know who you are that back your stuff. And
That's huge. That's a
it is.
huge thing. Yeah. Worldwide. I mean, depending on where you ship, if you
Yeah,
do it. But
I have data. I mean, they give you analytics
yeah.
about it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
people who I've never met before who bought the book, and that's what I want. Like, I don't want, not that I don't love my fans, but I want to find the people that I haven't reached.
Absolutely. And
And
that's the growth. That's the eyes, on
right,
all of it. Yeah. I agree.
so yeah, like I
Mm.
think it's if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I've gotten with Touching Evil, because it's a 21 issue book. That's the longest I've ever worked on one title. And I'm doing all of it. So like, if I didn't have
Yeah.
Kickstarter, I don't think I could have gotten this far with the story
Yeah.
that I wanted to tell. I just don't think it would have been a likely scenario because it's
I
not that
understand
it's
that.
paying me to do it, but it's facilitating me to make a book that I can then sell.
Yes.
Um,
And that's, and you've got, yeah. You're also going to be at Chicago. You're coming up to the Chicago show, correct? C2E2?
yes, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I got this weekend I've got Grand Rapids Comic Con,
Yeah.
so I'll
Yep.
be in Michigan,
That's good.
and then Seattle with Emerald City Comic Con,
Good. You are going to go.
and
Excellent.
then closing it out with C2E2 for the year. Yeah.
Excellent. And that's close to home. That's good.
Yes.
I know that we're rushed on time. You need to come back. We need to sit you
Why?
down and what's
I
that?
still have some time if you
Do,
do.
do you? All right, cool. I'll
I've
give you
got
about
like
10 minutes. Yeah. If you got 10 minutes, that's
I
good.
definitely have 10 minutes. I might even have
Okay.
15. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see how it goes then.
Yeah.
I've got, as far as your campaigns and that go, uh, the, the Touching Evil though has this been your main, like your number one, making Kickstarter, as
Yeah.
far as funds?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you came out of the gate. You didn't have a very high um, funding rate as far as what was the total that you needed? It wasn't very
Well,
much.
I usually put like a reasonable goal of
Yeah.
this time it was 10 grand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, so when I hit 10 grand, I still don't have any money in my pocket at all.
Right.
I've got that
Cover the
covers like
costs.
printing costs and
Mhm.
the slipcase that we made that basically covered the two of the things.
Yeah.
And then getting past that, then I started covering some of the cost of the colorists that I've hired.
Hmm.
And of course you got shipping and all this. So really like, I'm probably not making a whole lot of money off of it,
Well,
but
right. Right.
it gives me a cushion for the next 2 months now to actually just finish the book. Like I'm almost done with it, but it's a big book. It's 240 pages. So
Wow.
I'm on like 100 and what would that be? Like 170, 180 at this
Yeah.
point. Because I've
Yep.
done 5 issues. I've
Yep.
had 7 total. So yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it's that
Cool.
I kickstarted that. I kickstarted Floppy Cop. I did
Yeah.
a back in the day. I did an okay Indiegogo for Beardo. That was when Indiegogo was first starting.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I remember that one. The floppy cop, it's not exactly kid friendly.
no,
Just so that people understand that. It sounds like it is, but it's actually quite an adult. So I recommend it. It's TED certified. So definitely check out Floppy Cop. Do you got okay? Now, do you have any other do you have any other publishers linked to any of these things? Is Floppy Cop done with Source Point, or were
Yeah,
they okay? So
yeah.
that's okay. You want to tell everybody about how that works a little bit on the hybrid side of it? If you're an indie creator, do you have publishers? Do you not have publishers? Do you like doing that? I mean, is it a win-win? I think it's a win-win, but
I do too. I mean, I think people need to maybe adjust what they think about what it means to be published too, because some people think if
yes,
you publish
yeah,
everything is, golden, right? I mean,
right,
SourcePoint is a great local publisher that is expanding and
yep,
getting into other things, but they're still, I'd say they're only like 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that.
yeah,
So that's very young for a publisher. And
hmm
a lot of times, what they can do for you is provide you a platform. They might not be able to get you funding that you need for something, but they can at least get the signal out there where they can get it
sure,
in the
sure,
stores, distribution, and all that
hmm
sort of stuff. And a lot of other publishers that are even bigger than that still are like that, where they're not necessarily like funding your project out the gate, but they're
right,
making sure that it gets out there so that it can generate revenue for you to
hmm
continue it. So for me, having both going was sort of a necessity. Like having a publisher to get that signal boost out in
hmm
the country basically, got me a lot of new eyes on Touching Evil and Floppy.
yeah,
Because when
absolutely,
I first was doing Touching Evil, it was self-published entirely. It was up until issue. I think they picked me up when I was around like issue 12,
yeah,
and then they started from the beginning again. So now they're finally caught up with me.
right.
But I also work with Source Books, which is not to be confused with Source Point
Source
Press.
books. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, tell me
Yeah,
more about that. Yeah.
they're for the children's books that I illustrate.
Oh,
So
excellent, excellent. Okay.
that's where A Thousand No's and Do
Yes.
You Speak Fish are published through, which that publisher that's the largest independent book
Right.
publisher in the world.
Right.
So they have a much bigger reach signal wise. I mean, it's in basically if you go to like any store that carries books, odds are you're going to see
Yeah.
A Thousand No's and Do You Speak Fish there.
Yeah. I have. I have. Well,
Yeah.
how rewarding is it doing the kids' books? Is it something that's your move away tactic that you were talking about, so that you don't have um
Yeah.
dry area, when you're creating? Does that help you? I mean,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
it does. I
it's
mean,
one more place to pivot to for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But how rewarding is it? Is it, you know, are you corrupting small minds? Is that the enjoyment, or is it what's the take?
They don't
Uh,
let me corrupt the minds. I
no.
just draw them. So
Okay.
so I don't get to write them. Not yet anyway. I do have one in mind that I want to
All
do. But
right. All
it's
right.
it's great because for one, it's built off of a very strong friendship that I've had for
That's awesome.
15 years maybe now.
That's awesome.
DJ Corchin, the writer, and
hmm
I, we started working with each other in 2006. So we've made 11 books together. And
Wow. That's
yeah, and he's
fantastic.
made even more. Like he's made,
Yeah.
I mean, so have I, but like he's made specifically children's books. He's probably made like 25 or something like that
Wow.
now.
Wow.
So yeah, I love doing it. Honestly, like I would love to do one every year, to be honest with you, because
hmm
they're very fun. They're a very different approach than comic books. You have to really
Yeah.
boil down to the essence of what you're trying to say.
hmm
Um,
Well,
in
how many
and
memories? I mean, as us as comic book creators, or novelists or anything, we create memories for people. But
yeah,
if you can create a memory for a child that was beneficial, that they won't ever, that basically was there to implement the start of their journey.
yeah.
How awesome is that? You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's,
it's great.
man.
It's great.
And
Yeah,
then you're multiplying that times how many books? That's crazy.
yeah.
Um, kudos, it's good. That's good stuff, man. I mean, would you consider yourself then a hybrid author?
I
Or would you,
guess.
or
I
an
mean,
indie? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Brian K. Morris says that he's a hybrid author because he's been published by other publications. I guess I have too, but I don't know. I still consider myself an independent creator. You know.
Yeah, I don't think about it that much until I go to like Comic Cons where I have to
Yeah.
like say what I am, and I'm like,
Right. When
it's
you're
like I
on
don't.
panels or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like those. It's almost like it's one of those tough questions. Like, what's your music sound like? You're like,
Yeah.
oh
Big. Yeah.
man,
That's a
like
good point. See, you brought that right in. I get that totally.
I
Yeah.
can't. I mean, not that I don't dislike your question, but I definitely hate the what does your music sound like question because it's
Yeah. Right.
always
No.
not that I don't blame anyone for asking it, but it's like, well, like just listen to it and just see what it sounds like for yourself. Like it's not that
Right.
hard to listen to a song.
Yeah. What do you hear? Right. I
Yeah,
mean, because we all hear it differently.
yeah,
It's like I think Dave Grohl said it best. He says that, I love making music and singing it and having people sing it back to me for
yeah,
all the different reasons that they sing it back to me for.
yes,
So he says, my song is my one perspective, but I've got 50,000 people in the auditorium and all of them sing it back to me in their perspective. And
right.
he said, that's the power of storytelling. And I get that. I understand that. I've
I
had
do
people say
too.
things
There's
about,
reasons why
my
people.
books that are, I never thought it would be that meant that way, but then they take it in a completely different format and like, oh, wow, that's cool. I made a connection there and I didn't realize, that's pretty awesome. So I don't know if you've had that experience too, but
Oh, definitely. I've
you
had,
know,
and I really love it when for anyone to remember something of mine is always a good feeling. Like they go,
yeah, yeah.
oh, I love this song or I like this, this comic or whatever it is.
Hmm.
It means that you made the connection for whatever reason. Like and it's not up to you why they interpret it the way
Right.
they do. It's just the fact that if it gave them some sort of joy or relatability or pleasure in some way, like
Yeah.
that means that you did something right. I mean,
Yeah.
what you did, who knows it, and you can't just replicate it that easy either. It's like it's not
That
as
is true.
right, but
All right. So you guys know where he's going to be as far as shows go. Where can everybody get your things? Where can they buy stuff? What do you have
you
for
can.
websites?
There's a couple places to go.
Hmm.
One that's very interactive and fun is my Patreon. I
Awesome.
actually am very active on that now. So I do 3 new comics a week, and then I do like basically a post almost every day, like of either old content or other things I'm working on. So if you go to Beardo Comics on Patreon,
Hmm.
you'll find that it's like $2 a month if you want to get in the base level. If you want to get books or my music, I have a vinyl record actually on my website.
That's
Um,
cool. I'm digging
yeah,
that. That's great.
yeah, it's really very proud of it. I'm actually working on a second one now. So my website is beardocomics.com, and there's a shop that you can go and check out all my stuff. There's also links to other things if you want to like kind of rabbit holes of what I'm up to. And then I'm actually right now I'm taking like a social media break,
Yeah.
but
I don't blame you.
um,
Blame
after
you at all.
Kickstarter,
Yeah.
after a month of it, I was just like, man, I need a month off of this. I
Yeah.
can't
Yep.
keep checking my phone like this. But I'm on Instagram at Beardo Comics. I'm on Twitter at Beardo Comics, and then Facebook. If you look up my name, you can
Yeah.
I usually pop up in the top couple searches.
Yep. Yeah. And I follow you too. So you guys check out everything through my websites too and my Instagram and my Facebook and that you guys can link Dan through that too. So no problem. Everything's for sale then on your website on
Everything's
Patreon.
for sale. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Everything must go.
All right. Sounds good. So let's
Yeah,
finish out the year really, really well for Dan here. I appreciate you so much, Dan. I appreciate your work. I appreciate who you are as a creative in the community. I'm looking forward to finally meeting you eventually once we get to the point where we're, able to get back into the swing of things. I think it's great that you're going to the larger Comic Cons and that. I'm not quite ready, and I've got so much going
sure.
on here. But I know that next year we've got everything planned out for the year, and that's going to be, and I'm sure we'll meet up on the road somewhere. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
I hope
forward
I'm
to it.
looking forward to it. Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun. And thank you again. I want to talk about my campaign if I can finish out the.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for stopping in. One of the things about Dan that I really like is that he reciprocates. He ends up investing back if he believes in you. And that's something that Dan invested in my my Kickstarter for Grim 101 book too. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So be like Dan. Let's see the let me find the video and then we'll close out the show here in a couple minutes. Just give me 1 second. Be right back.
Most of my life I've felt alone, but not here. I suppose living next to a cemetery, your neighbours are always close. It is peaceful and quiet, but not lonely. In fact, since my first visit amongst these graves, I've felt a presence, a calmness that fills the air and surrounds me like a gentle morning mist. That's how I know he is there. It's a feeling of being watched from afar. I wait in silence as well, until we meet.
And you can check that out on Kickstarter. And thank you guys for stopping in. Thank you, Dan. Chicago proud, man. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
That was a very good interview, and I appreciate your time, and I know how busy you are. So let me stick around for a second, and I'll close this out. All right,
Sure.
we'll talk in a second. Thanks. Thanks again, guys, for stopping in. I know it's pre-recorded. It's a little bit different than we normally do, but it's going to be like that probably better part of the month here. We've got a lot of people coming in that are from the West Coast, too, and we're trying to schedule everything out. Speaking of the West Coast, check out our new podcast, From the Trenches of Hollywood, with my good friend, the producer that is taking over the adaptation for my book Retrieve in California, in LA, Craig Hall. We're doing a brand new podcast. You'll see it all over the place on the internet as well as on Spotify. It's called From the Trenches of Hollywood. And get your writing down. Find out a little bit more about how Hollywood works and how to get your book noticed, or your article or short story or what have you. Check out what we're doing, because I think it's really valuable as an independent, just as a writer, independent creator, whatever. But just make sure that you guys are checking it out, because I think there's a lot of really, really good perspective that Craig brings to the in 30 years as a veteran scriptwriter. So check out what we're doing there. Okay, and I think that's it. So have a great week. Do something good for somebody, guys. Stay safe, and we will talk to you soon.